Today we're going to do St. Louis ribs, one of my favorites. You know, what I'm looking for, is the biggest rib that I can get, a thick rib, that has a lot of meat on it. I try to get a 4.5 to 5 pound rib is what I'm looking for, because that's going to have a lot of meat for those judges to taste. Today we're kind of doing the backyard thing, but I'm going to contrast between backyard and what I'm looking at for competitions. So if you guys, when you're doing this and playing around at home, you can kind of like, hey, I always want to do a competition. Well, I'm going to try what Jay said, and let's try this. But first, you want to look for those striations in the meat. This is the most important thing, is having some movement and some fat striations going through there, because that's your flavor. And then this is kind of where your judges are going to taste from here. If it has a big piece of white fat like over this area and stuff, stray away from those. Dig through all the ribs. I mean, we go to the stores and we're trying to find competition ribs. We'll go to 8 stores and maybe find one rack. So, don't just grab the top one. Dig through them, I go by starting by looking for the most expensive ones, because those are the thickest. They're going to be the biggest. Then I pull all those packages out, set them in my shopping cart, and start looking for the striations in the meat. And at that point, that's when I choose my St. Louis ribs. So the first thing that we do, is flip it over on the bone side, the bottom side of the ribs. And I love using a butter knife. What I do is I start on the big side, not the little flat side, the big side of the rib. And I take it and I just work it down in there and pry it up. So that's it right there. Go to the second bone. And then I pry it up and I'll go to the third bone. And at that point, you've got this flap to work with. The trick is paper towels. It gives you grip, because my fingers are already slimy and oily and porky and everything right now. What you want to do is get your thumb under there, work it like this. And then what I do is I start rolling it like this, rolling it. And then at this point, look at that, I'm starting to get a good run. I think I'm gonna roll with it. It's starting to tear, just ease it and just try to get as much as you can and just keep working it all the way to the end. And look at that, that was a good pull. So not a lot of cleanup left. I can see right here, I just had a minor amount of cleanup to do. So what I'll do is take that butter knife again, and I can just pry that up. I got one more paper towel left. I've got it. See, you can grab it. Doesn't matter if you get any meat on that. You're not gonna taste that on that side. And voila. They got every single piece of that membrane off right now. So we'll discard that off. Now, what I do is I like to clean up this bottom side a little bit if it needs it. If it's got some big humps, a lot of times, on this flap right here, let me show you what I'm talking about. Running on the edge of this flap line right there where you tore the membrane. A lot of times that's real. We just clean that up in competitions. If you're playing around your backyard, go ahead and try to do it competition style. Might as well, you got time. You're just sitting around drinking beer or wine, might as well. So what I'll do is I try to square it up and cut off the excess flap and everything. I'm trying to create a rectangle, and that's the shape you're looking for. So obviously you're not gonna have that on this end or whatever, but there's little pieces of meat. See it hanging off the edge right here? So what I do is I just put that down, push down, take a knife, and just run it, and it squares it up. The next thing I do, I like these end pieces of ribs, but they need a little bit of work. But what you're gonna do is just take this, knife and keep it pretty flat and just kind of shave this stuff off right here. And that way, what you're trying to do is just expose the meat, because this is what you want to eat. So I'll just take that, and try to get as long of a cut as you can, and just keep exposing the meat. And then you've got some good stuff on this end here, because these are some of the thick part of the ribs. See how it exposed that meat right there? That's what you're trying to do. And that way you get bites and everything, and don't have just a mouthful of fat on this one. Competition is everybody has been seeing it on Barbecue Pit Masters and TV and stuff. It's its own culture, I mean, I've got friends that do 30, 35 cook-offs a year. I do about 6 a year. So you get out there on Friday and kind of set your trailer up and set your whole thing up and get ready with all your tables and your easy ups, and everybody's got their own little flares and techniques, and that's what makes everybody successful, at the end of the day in the competition world is hey, that little technique or that little that little dusting at the end of the magic dust, we call it, the finishing dust, whatever you blend it up, hey, that may be the difference in the judge's eye of your product standing out, versus the other competitors. So once you get up there on final table and stuff, a lot of this stuff tastes the same. So it comes down to, your cooking skills and made sure that you cook that rib perfectly. We're all friends, but at the end of the day, you want to have your number called last. And one of the biggest, was the biggest, I think it may be the biggest cook-off in Texas history, was winning the San Antonio Rodeo cook-off in 2018. And, we had the last ticket of the night call. We got #1 brisket and grand champion. So, pretty special night for Tinney barbecue. We had a great time. I love going to that, and I love seeing my friends walk the stage. It's just a big camaraderie deal, and I'm always congratulating them when they win. And, you can't win them all, but you can sure have a damn good time at each one of them. So, watch some videos. Watch this, what I'm doing. Watch some YouTube videos. I wouldn't suggest going out and buying a $10,000 smoker until you figure out, if this is something you want to do. Have some fun. It doesn't cost you, a $10,000, $20,000 trailer, then an RV, then you're going to want a bus, and it gets crazy, from that point. So just, go out, try it, have some fun, and watch some videos and follow some people and really just have fun with it and go out and try your hand at it. So at this point, what we're going to do is start with your seasoning on the bottom side. And what I like to do is, again, start with a salt, pepper, garlic rub as your base layer, and just come up high and just kind of fan it. If you have it down low, I've found that it kind of dumps, and it'll be clumpy. If you come up high and just sprinkle and move in the direction, of the rib and follow the actual rectangle on the line, then it puts an even amount of seasoning on your product, and which again makes a better end product. So at that point, you're good. Now I come back, with my color and my savory rub, the Head Country Championship rub, same thing. Just kind of follow that line, and just continue to put your product on and just kind of paint it on and just follow the line. You can make a pattern if you want, go from, the outside and then work in. As you can see, it's starting to get a better color. You're not seeing as much white or as much pink, in the meat. And most backyard cooks don't put enough, on ribs and brisket. The birds stay light. On the ribs is kind of a medium layer. I mean, you're creating a bark, and that's what's your flavor on these. You still want the pork to shine through, but you definitely want some flavor on there. And that's the bark that you're building while you're smoking. So on the bottom side, I think this is about the color that I'm looking for right here. Let me show you without dumping that off. So that's what I'm looking for right there. So flip it over. Now at this point, you're gonna go ahead and hit your ribs with the salt, pepper, garlic blend, the SPG. And you can see, and just go real light. That way you're gonna get a little bit of that in every bite. So now back with your Head Country Championship rub, and just continue to make that rectangle. I follow the outside lines a lot, and then I'll come in and paint on the inside and continue to do it. Now I'll go a little bit heavier on this because this is where your bites are going to come from. So I like for this to go on the application part of it. And then what I like to do is allow this to sweat and just kind of let that bark get a little bit more chunky, if that makes sense. And then you just get a better bite at that point. You've got that bark is set, and just your rub is set, and you just get all that savory flavors out of it. And that's kind of what you're looking for when you're doing ribs or brisket. And so you can just kind of apply this, walk away for a little bit, come back and go, all right, I see, so I've got a few spots that I need to reapply. And at that point, then you're almost ready to go to the grill, after about that second reapplication. show you. You know, that's a nice competition rib. And I think I'm probably gonna eat this one. So, man, that's good with that apple habanero head country on it.